In a moment of characteristic chaos from Donald Trump and his mouthpieces, he ended up storming out of the courtroom in his ongoing and second defamation trial with E. Jean Carroll. Carroll's attorney, Roberta Kaplan, had been in the midst of telling jurors that Trump acts as if the rules don't apply to him, considering Trump lost his initial $5 million defamation case and immediately, the next day, began defaming her again. But upon hearing that, Trump rose and stampeded out of the courtroom, thereby proving yet again that he is not willing to acknowledge that the rules apply to him. The judge in the case, Lewis Kaplan, said the record will reflect that Mr. Trump just rose and walked out of the courtroom before instructing Trump's remaining attorneys to stay seated. But I want to be clear about something. This is all by design. Consider this exchange from the last time Trump was disruptive in court with Judge Kaplan. He said, "Mr. Trump has the right to be present here. That right can be forfeited, and it can be forfeited if he is disruptive, and if he disregards court orders. Mr. Trump, I hope I don't have to consider excluding you from the trial. I understand you are very eager for me to do that." To which Trump responded, "I would love it. I would love it." Judge Kaplan then shot back, "I know you would because you just can't control yourself in the circumstance, apparently. You just can't." And the reality is that Trump may not be able to control himself, but the tantrums here are by design. Look, Trump already lost this case. The whole point at this point are to determine damages, but the case provides him a venue at which he can accomplish his larger goal and present himself as the victim, which I spoke about on a recent episode of The Legal Breakdown with Glenn Kirshner.
I wanted to ask you, Brian, because when I saw this I saw the reporting of this really heated exchange where Judge Kaplan was threatening to ban Donald Trump from the courtroom, right? Just kick him out of his own trial. Donald Trump actually threw up his hands and said, "I would love that." I mean, looking at it through your political expertise, what do you think is going on there?
This is one of those rare instances where Donald Trump actually tells the truth, but I think it was by accident. Of course he would love it, because the whole point of what Donald Trump is doing right now is that he's trafficking in victimhood. He's presenting himself as if he's the victim, which is especially ironic because this specific case is one in which, he was found liable for sexually abusing the woman who he's standing across from in the courtroom. And so the notion that Donald Trump is the victim here in a case where he defamed E. Jean Carroll, not just once, but numerous times to the point where she's mounting several defamation lawsuits, one after the next, is just absurd on its face. But this is what Donald Trump brings into his campaign. This is like part of his entire campaign for presidency. He's presenting himself as the victim at the hands of the evil communist Marxist Democrats, and that everything that's being done to him is being done unfairly. And that's how he can kind of bring his supporters into the fold to make them feel like we're all the victims. You're all in this together with me. If they can do this to me, they can do it to you. And he needs that because that's the only way that he's going to get anybody to feel any sympathy for him, because in reality, I mean, look what he's done. He is facing 91 criminal charges, two cases of which are at the hands of a DOJ that has a high conviction rate. Another one is, that he in Georgia, where he was leading a criminal enterprise in a giant racketeering scheme. Another one was in the Manhattan DA case. It couldn't be any clearer the extent to which Donald Trump is a criminal and a con man, and yet he needs some way to present himself as the victim in all of this. And so that's what he's doing right now. And so if the judge did him the service of kicking him out of the courtroom like he's trying to be, that would just play into this narrative that, in fact, Donald Trump is the one who's the victim at the hands of a system that just wants nothing more than to unfairly prosecute him. When, as we all know, all of these prosecutions are absolutely warranted. In fact, not only warranted, but long past due.
So I guess we could expect that if Judge Kaplan ultimately grows tired of Donald Trump's antics and kicks him out of his own trial, how long before we would see a fundraising email that the unfair judge and the deep state won't even let me defend myself at trial? They kicked me out of the courtroom. Please send me money.
Glenn, there is the speed of light, but just incrementally quicker than the speed of light is the speed with which Donald Trump will send that fundraising email out. If it's not already written, if someone is not standing there behind a computer with his or her finger hovering over the send button right now, I would be floored. In other words, does it seem like Donald Trump is huffing and puffing, that the last thing in the world he wants is to be engulfed in all of this courtroom drama? Of course it does. But he's performing. He is play acting. This is all by design. And then he'll get to go off to his next rally or shoot off his next fundraising email and pretend that he's been yet again victimized by the evil deep state, of which Judge Kaplan is clearly a part, and that you need to stand by Donald Trump, by giving him money, of course, so that he can fight back. I'll tell you what, for a guy so focused on seeming strong, so much of his strategy relies on being weak. And the rest of Trump's team isn't faring much better. Earlier in the trial, Alina Habba continually contested one of Judge Kaplan's rulings, which prompted the judge to tell her, "You are on the verge of spending some time in the lockup. Sit down." And let's be clear, she's under the same direction as her boss, Donald Trump. Alina Habba is not in that courtroom because she's some competent attorney. She's there because she's willing to sacrifice herself and her career to Trump in service of his broader strategy. She's basically acting as an offshoot of the guy. And so if he's gonna frame himself as a victim and throw himself on the floor and make a scene, then she's gonna frame herself as a victim and throw herself on the floor and make a scene. Again, this might seem like a moment of spontaneous drama, but it is wholly and completely manufactured. Any lawyer worth his or her salt would be careful not to clash with the judge, but for Trump's legal team, that's not only acceptable, it is necessary. And clearly, sacrificing what's left of her integrity is a price that Alina Habba is willing to pay to stay in the good graces of her client. And so look, because Trump views the courtroom as an offshoot of the campaign trail, he will continue to defame E. Jean Carroll, knowing full well that the money spent on damages will A, be recouped by his base of marks that he squeezes for cash on an hourly basis, and B, is worth him having a soapbox from which he can present himself as the victim. And that's a point that Glenn brought up himself. Is it possible that E. Jean Carroll can just keep suing Donald Trump for ever increasing sums so long as he continues to make these defamatory claims?
Endlessly. There is no, stopping point where all of a sudden Donald Trump continues to lie about E. Jean Carroll, continues to defame and damage E. Jean Carroll. And because she's won 2 hefty jury awards against him, somehow he can't be sued again for defamation. That would kind of make a mockery of the entire process. He keeps defaming E. Jean Carroll. She can keep suing him. She can sue him back to the Stone Age, take every penny he's got ultimately, and it looks like she is well on her way.
But despite all of this playing out according to plan for Trump, let's not forget that the amount of damages will be substantial. During the court proceedings, Roberta Kaplan, Carroll's lawyer, explained that Trump himself bragged that Mar-a-Lago was worth $1.5 billion. She also said you can award punitive damages, explaining that Trump opted not to go to court during the first trial, but he came to this one because he cares about money. So your decision is the only hope. In other words, perhaps the jury can award a sum that is so costly, it may actually serve the purpose of all of this, which is to deter Donald Trump from defaming an innocent woman, the actual victim, in the future. So we'll await the jury's next move, but amid all of these theatrics, just know that Trump is doing this on purpose. He wants the show. He wants the headlines. He wants the martyrdom because he thinks it'll help perpetuate a narrative that everyone's out there to get poor, innocent Donald Trump. But remember, no one forced him to defame E. Jean Carroll, which is the reason he's there. Like everything else he's being held accountable for, he made the conscious decision to say what he said. Just like he made the conscious decision to incite an insurrection on January 6th. Just like he made the conscious decision to try and block certification of the election results. Just like he made the conscious decision to steal classified documents from the White House. Just like he made the conscious decision to commit campaign finance violations by paying out hush money to Stormy Daniels. Trump is not a baby and he is not innocent. Trouble follows him not because of some nebulous deep state pinning random crimes on him. Trouble follows him because he chooses to commit those crimes. Today in that courtroom is no different. What is different is that his game is finally obvious to everyone watching. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.